Well, good morning and welcome. Today, we are going to consider God's smooth and straight road. Kids, I hope you're ready with your tally sheets. You might have just got a couple words there. I thought we could actually start, though, by playing a little guessing game. Are you guys up for it? Okay. So signs, like road signs, can help us find our way. But what happens if you don't know what the signs mean? So I'm going to share with you some signage from around the world, and let's see if you can guess the correct meaning. So this game is called Signs of the World. Are we ready? Are we ready? Good. All right. Most of us are ready. Okay, here's our first sign. Does this sign mean no hand gestures? B, no hitchhiking? C, no good vibes allowed? Let's hear it. What do you think? B? All right, let's see. Yes, no hitchhiking. Well done. All right, here's our next sign. Okay. A horn with a cross through it. Does this sign mean A, no honking, B, no loud music, or C, festivities not tolerated? Let's hear it. What are your answers? Okay. It was A, no honking. All right, here's the next one. Interesting graphic. Does this sign mean A, tunnel ahead, B, go toward the light, or C, Death Star approaching? Okay, let's check. Tunnel ahead. That's what I mean. I know, it's not as exciting as the other ones. Okay, next sign. This one's also kind of an exciting sign. Does this mean A, pirates this way, B, LARPing ahead, if any of you know what LARPing is, or C, historic battleground? Okay. Oh, it's C, historic battleground. Okay, this one's a little closer to home. Does this sign mean A, hang on to your pots, B, crafts ahead, or C, handle with care? Okay. It means crafts ahead, and in my experience, it's always a good idea to check this one out when you see it on the road. All right, last one. Okay, be mature. Maturity, please. Does this sign mean A, rough road ahead, B, bumpy road may lead to flatulence, or C, reduce speed? It is C. And now you all know the Swedish word for speed. It's educational. All right, thanks for playing. So learning to read signage in a new country is a little stressful. Paul and I found this out driving in Italy this summer. But once you know what the signs mean, things do go a lot smoother, and you won't have to worry about running into the Death Star. Today, we are continuing our series on the Psalms of Ascent with Psalm 128. If you've been around this summer, you'll know that the Psalms of Ascent were essentially songs for the road as pilgrims navigated their way to Jerusalem in ancient Israel. I'm not sure what road signs looked like back then, but I assume that there was a clearly marked, tried and true path forged by many generations that would lead these pilgrims on the safest way. So let's get into it and read today's psalm, Psalm 128, together. And I encourage you, as we're reading, to imagine the people on the road singing these words. All you who fear God, how blessed you are. How happily you walk on his smooth, straight road. You worked hard and deserve all you've got coming. Enjoy the blessing. Soak in the goodness. Your wife will bear children as a vine bears grapes. Your household lush as a vineyard. The children around your table as fresh and promising as young olive shoots. Stand in awe of God's yes. Oh, how he blesses the one who fears God. Enjoy the good life in Jerusalem every day of your life, and enjoy your grandchildren. Peace to Israel. It's a simple little psalm, one that raises some questions for you, I'm sure, like, what am I going to say about this in the next 20 minutes? But before we really get into the text on a more verse-by-verse basis, I want to start with a question to frame our time today. Is following God's road difficult? Or to put it as Peterson puts it in his book, A Long Obedience in the Same Direction, is being a Christian hard? For those of you who have been in church a while, you might be thinking of a verse from Matthew. It goes like this. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road broad that leads to destruction. And there are many who go through it. How narrow is the gate and difficult the road that leads to life, and few find it. Or, as the Message puts it, don't look for shortcuts to God. The market is flooded with surefire, easygoing formulas for a successful life that can be practiced in your spare time. Don't fall for that stuff, even though crowds of people do. The way of life to God is vigorous and requires total attention. So in one way, yes, perhaps it is difficult, vigorous and requiring total attention. These words from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount sound challenging. And I think that for many of us, our first answer to this framing question would be yes. From this standpoint, being a Christian, especially a serious Christian, if you know what I mean, looks hard. There are many things that serious Christians do. They have to read the Bible daily and pray, engage in spiritual disciplines, volunteer, and give. They have to get up in the morning and go to church regularly, give their efforts and time to developing Christian community when life is already so busy. On top of this, serious Christians have to use all their willpower to give up bad habits, conform to the rules of faith, which can feel outdated in our society, and submit to institutions that can disappoint. And worst of all, love their enemies. And do all these things in a world that looks down on them, views them as backward, prudish, narrow-minded, weird, and frankly, no fun at all. So yes, the road of the quote-unquote serious Christian does sound hard. Now, a story interjection. A story about a hard road. The reason Paul and I were in Italy, navigating Italian roads and signs and drivers, was an invitation to spend 2 weeks working at an artist residency in a small village called Colomacchia. It's in the Molise region of Italy. And Colomacchia is located near a national park, which is full of hiking trails. And here's a portion, this is just a tiny portion of the map. These trails are centuries old, and they're flanked by these ancient walls that tiered the mountains for agriculture. And I love walking and hiking, plus it was relevant to the project I was working on, so exploring this trail network was at the top of my list of things to do while we were there. Our first hike was supposed to be an easy one, an hour there and back, and it would take us to an ancient shepherd's hut and a Roman well. We received our directions, and the directions were to follow the yellow and red markers and set on our way up the mountain. We came to a couple forks in the road, and somehow I must have got it in my head that we were always to take the high road. The hike became steep, rocky, and the trail eventually narrowed. There were beautiful views, of course, but no shepherd's hut and no well. It began to dawn on us that we hadn't seen the yellow and red markers for a while. And what was supposed to be an easy hike under an hour became a steep and challenging 2.5-hour experience with dwindling water reserves. It was harder than we were prepared for. The road of life can indeed be hard. It's full of challenges, disappointments, and trials, danger, trauma as well. But the surprise of Psalm 128 is that it seems to suggest that walking the road of Christian discipleship is actually much easier than forging one's own way. Let me explain. Because we live in a difficult world, we can forget that the story of God found in the Bible is actually full of blessings. The creation of humanity begins with a blessing, on to Noah and Abraham, blessings for both. Then to Israel, again, blessing. David, more blessings. Jesus' Sermon on the Mount includes blessing after blessing. And at the end of the Bible, we find that the final word is also blessing. We can get so wrapped up in the to-do and not to-do list of serious Christian and just the hardness of life itself that we can forget about the blessings. Blessing is the first and last word in the story of God, and it bookends this psalm as well. Let's take another look. So we're going to break it down now. All you who fear God, how blessed you are, how happily you walk on his smooth, straight road. The psalmist begins by proclaiming that everyone who fears God is blessed, happily walking in his way. Whether your translation says happy or blessed or both, what is referred to here is not a streak of good luck, having a great week, or an ephemeral or fleeting emotion. Happiness or blessedness is the inner strength of the soul. It is a creative and vital power given to us not through external means, but internally, as a gift of God. In this sense, blessedness is the power to live in the deepest, most meaningful way, a way that is integrated and whole. Those who live in God's blessings are truly happy. And how might we live in God's blessing? The psalmist says, through fearing him and walking in his ways. The fear of the Lord is recognizing his bigness, his beyondness, that we can't fully comprehend his fullness. And yet to follow his ways is to have faith that though God is beyond our comprehension, he is trustworthy and his ways are good, woven into the fabric of creation. And God's way is not an obscure one. It is not hidden from us. It is clearly marked path. As Eugene Peterson states, there is no tricks involved in getting in on this life of blessing, and no luck required. We simply become Christians and begin the life of faith. We acknowledge God as our maker and lover and accept Christ as the means by which we can be living in relationship with him. Whoops. We accept the announced and proclaimed truth that God is at the center of our existence. Find out how he has constructed this world, his creation, how he has provided for our redemption, and proceed to walk in that way. In the plain words of the psalm, all you who fear God, how blessed you are, how happily you walk on his smooth, straight road. And yes, as we embark on the smooth, straight road, there are ethical standards, moral values, spiritual disciplines, social justice, covenantal communities to build, to nurture with the help of God's presence within us. And we won't do all of this perfectly. Life in the now and not yet can indeed be confusing. So if we lose track of the signs, like I lost track of the red and yellow signs on the hike, we can turn around. We can ask for directions. The path will always be there waiting for us. Now let's take a look at the next few verses of the psalm. You worked hard and deserve all you've got coming. Enjoy the blessing. Soak in the goodness. Your wife will bear children as a vine bears grapes. Your household lush as a vineyard. The children around your table as fresh and promising as young olive shoots. Stand in awe of God's yes. These verses show an example of what a life of happiness or blessedness might look like from an ancient Hebrew perspective. It's a culturally contextual example, not a norm for us to follow. But this doesn't mean we can't learn from it. The ancient Hebrew life was an agricultural life, contingent upon family ties. So it's like these verses are saying, you will eat from your harvest and your work will sustain you. It won't be for nothing. Your day-to-day faithfulness in walking in God's way, caring for your crops and your animals, will be generative, meaning that it will increasingly affect and sustain your family and your community. Likewise, your family will expand and multiply, just as the plants in your garden. Your kin will be connected, sharing in the fruits of your labor around the same table. This is one way in which happiness might appear. Use your imagination. How might happiness appear in a different context? But there are definitely some key themes we can hold on to that are more universal in these verses. So these are the ones that I came up with. Number one, your work has meaning. Your labor is not for nothing. And when I say work, I don't mean your 9 to 5. I don't mean your day job. I mean all of your efforts, all of your labor, all the energy that you bring to doing life. It's not in vain. Your life will be generative. You will share what you have, blessing those around you. Your relationships will be fruitful. You won't be alone. You will live in community. I don't know about you, but my heart needs to hear these 3 blessings. Sometimes it does feel like my work is for nothing, or that my life has little impact, and sometimes I feel lonely. But these remind me how much I am blessed by the path of Christian discipleship and how it's led me to find fulfillment, meaning, and encouragement in the work I do, a ripple effect of positive impact in my community that's working together with other people's work. And the assurance that I am part of the family of God, both here in my home church and with brothers and sisters across space and time. What strikes me as well is the eternal nature of these blessings. They continue. Even death can't stop them. Let us be in awe of God's yes. And how different from some contemporary notions of happiness. Here's some examples. Freedom from work. Enjoy the good life without labor. Accumulation of wealth. Kept safe for me and mine. Complete independence. Freedom from all demands. You could truly put any of these as a tagline for Lotto 649. I feel they would work. But living in this way doesn't bring blessing or happiness. The myth of wealth without work actually puts us and others in chains. It can quickly become the inverse of meaningful labor, ingrained in unjust systems, amplifying inequality in our world. Similarly, what we hoard for ourselves is ultimately taken from others, near and far. It's not generative, it's exploitative. And radical independence brings a profound loneliness and a lack of responsibility towards our fellow human beings. This road leads nowhere. And then our simple Psalm 128 ends in a powerful statement of God's blessing. Oh, how he blesses the one who fears God. Enjoy the good life in Jerusalem every day of your life, and enjoy your grandchildren. Peace to Israel. Because of the domestic imagery from the previous verses, I found that it was easy to forget that this was a pilgrimage song. It's a song for the road away from home. The destination, Jerusalem, Mount Zion, the place of God's presence in the Hebrew imagination. And so it is the end of the journey that calls out to pilgrims on the path. God's presence, the goal of the way of discipleship, reaches out to us on the road, calling us forward to the blessings that await. Keep going. Follow the road signs and stay on the path. Don't give up, because you will experience my presence and you will see the results of a life lived in my way for generations to come. Life, any life, will always have heartache, disappointment, and difficulties. You should expect it. In our attempts to make the road of life easier, we try to find shortcuts. We can veer off the path. But what Psalm 128 reminds us is that a life lived without God is the hard road, the road that leads nowhere. But a life lived in God's way leads to true happiness, living in the reality of God's blessing, a life of deep meaning, generative life that blesses and connects us with others, powered by the vitality of the Creator. Back to the story about being lost on the trail to the shepherd's hut. I tend to finish my stories. That one was for Paul. When we finally decide to turn back because we were obviously off the correct trail, we came across the junction where we went wrong. There, clearly marked, was a yellow and red arrow pointing down the mountain. A few days later, we tried the hike again, and it was an easy, smooth 45-minute there and back, just like we were told. The correct trail started off with a difficult climb, but eventually evened out, meandering through forest and opening into small glens of wildflowers. And all along the way, there were clearly marked red and yellow signs, encouraging us that we were no longer lost, but on the right trail. We found the shepherd's hut and the the Roman well. I believe the bathtub was a later addition, but I'm pretty sure the rest of it is of that era. The destination was there for us. It didn't change. Even though we got lost in our first attempt, it was waiting for us for 2,000 years. The way of Christian discipleship is both hard and easy. It's hard to turn around, admit you are wrong, to give up on a fruitless shortcut. But after many years on this road, I can say with confidence that it would have been much harder without God. And I really couldn't have predicted where I'd end up. I would have never had the energy or the resources to take up the work that Christ has called me to without his presence in me and with me. I would have never experienced the great joy and blessing of this life, these people he's given. May Psalm 128 also remind you from another teaching of Jesus in Matthew. Are you tired, worn out, burnt out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Dear friends, may you walk on the smooth and straight path and see your destination. May your work be meaningful, your life generative, and your relationships fruitful. Amen.